Hey everybody, welcome to episode 31 of Between the Lanes. I'm Ralph.
And I'm Ron.
I always tell people our pre-show and post-show are really better than the real show. So sorry if we came on there laughing there.
No, I think we quit laughing, and then when it started, then I think you started thinking about what we were laughing about. And
Yeah.
so anyway,
So all right. So before we get into all the good stuff, let's go ahead and do the race results here.
The race results for the week of March. What was last weekend? 14th? No, 10th.
Yeah.
So race results are up. This is the winning segment. There's your winning for you, Ralph. The Ohio Oval Series was at CF Raceways in Fremont, Ohio, and I don't really think this is really an actual raceway, but I think
this is like a home raceway, right?
Yeah, and it's like a kind of a club deal, 6-lane oval they race on, and they had a pretty good turnout of cars. But the Indy class was won by Elmo, with Dennis Murray on the left there in second, and John Humberger on the right in third. And NASCAR, Elmo won again with Jim Pace Jr. on the right second, and Keith Nelson was third on the left. And then Dirt Late Model, Superman Elmo pulled it off, the big sweep. He's showing us his muscle there. Followed by Keith in second, and Grant Sams was third. The Retro East was at Port Jeff Raceway, and this is a picture of the Can-Am podium. Brian Cochran in the second. Brian X-Pro was your winner. Chubby was second, and Pat Skeggs was third. Don't have a photo of the F1 podium, but the winner was Doug Bauer. Chubby was second again, and Jerry Herbert Jr. was third. The Florida Slot Car Series was at Fast Eddie's in Pinellas Park, Florida. Group 1 NASCAR, Marcus Ramos in the center was your winner. Jeff Bonanno was second on the right, and Brian Ambrose, looking off into the distance, was third. Group 2 was Ralph Josie was the winner. Mike Mook was second, and Ray Lee from the northeast part of the United States was third, which when I seen all these photos and I seen where Ray Lee was, I'm thinking to myself, why is Ray Lee in Group 2? Because he's probably won more races than all these other guys combined, because Ray's been racing since the 60s.
Long time, yeah.
I'm like, why is Ray Lee in Group 2? So I don't know why. I don't personally care why. I just thought it was interesting that a man of his experience and years of racing would be in Group 2. So I'm sure someone will make a comment and tell us maybe why Ray was in Group 2. So in the LMP Group 1 class, Brian Ambrose, not looking any happier, was your winner. Ken Green on the right was second, and Jeff Bonanno was third. And the interesting point of this race, those three were all on the same lap at the end of the race.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Group 2, Ray Lee was the winner. Donnie Karen was second. He's on the right. And Mike Mook on the left was third. And Ray and Danny were also on the same lap in that race. And I think Mike was like one lap behind him, or maybe he hadn't crossed the counter, but they were all real close too. And then the closest race of the day would have been the GT1 Group 1 race. Ken Green won by half a car length over Brian Ambrose, and that might explain Brian's expression. And Marcus Ramos was third, and we'll give a shout out to Jason Burnside, who was fourth. But those four drivers were all on the same lap at the end of the race, so that was like the race of the day as far as finishers on the same lap. And then in Group 2, Ray Lee was the winner. Danny Karen on the right was second, and Ralph Josie on the left was third. New England Retro Racing. I got no photos of the finishers, but they raced at Modelville Raceway, Ashland, Massachusetts. They ran the retro stock cars on the American Black Track. That was probably a blast. And
I've had stock cars. Wow, retro stock cars on that track, I bet is a handful.
Oh, that'd be a blast. That's definitely a bull ring. Sign me up. I'm ready. But Frankie, I think it's Blankhorn, was the winner, and that was his first ever series race win, is what they had posted. Dominic Luongo was second. Keith Libby was third. And then they raced F1 on the King track there, which is a Girding King track. Dominic was the winner, Keith Libby second, and Vinny Cafazzo, the young Kenny Cafazzo, was third. Central Illinois Slot Series was at Whiskers Raceway in Gladstone, Illinois, real close to the Iowa-Illinois border over there. The B&E, and it got ugly. Did you see that picture on Facebook?
Whoa.
Yeah, it got ugly. So
Whose car was that?
Well, Kurt Vincent on the right was the winner of the B&E pony stock class, and Dale Van Horn was second. And I believe that was Dale's car, because I think I seen a picture of him holding that beautiful two-piece chassis.
Wow.
And then in the CIS Pony Stock Pro class, Toby Kindig was the winner, Ken Williams second, Ed Riddle was third. In the amateur pony stock class, Jason Plummer was the winner, Randy Lynn was second, and Tom Baker was third. In the retro Can-Am class, Toby was the winner, Ken Williams was second, Dale Van Horn was third. Their late model, Toby Kindig wins again, Ken Williams was second again, and Brian Wallig was third. In the GTP class, Toby finished it off by winning once again with Ken Williams second, and track owner PJ Baltz on the right was third. And this was also their last race of the series. And your series champion.
Wow, I like his shirt there. Did you see that?
Yeah, well, I was gonna get to that here in a minute.
Slot car and vibrator repair.
Well, I think that's probably an HO kind of shirt, because the old HO vibrator cars.
Okay.
So it's a slot car, and those were vibrator cars, and
all under one roof.
All under one roof. And I was thinking, okay, slot cars under the roof of the building, and maybe vibrators under the roof of her mouth. I don't know. Never mind. So, series champs, B&E was Kurt Vincent. In the CIS Pony Pro Division, it was Ken Williams. In the CIS Pony Stock Amateur Division, it was Jason Plummer. And then in Can-Am Dirt Late Model and GTP, Ken Williams was the series champion. So Ken Williams won 4 series championships. And Toby Kindig kind of swept all the other races at the championship race. But I think this is kind of like Toby's home track too. So, but, Toby's a good racer, and he gets better and better. Mid-South Slot Car Racing Association was at Hobby Max, Durham, North Carolina. We were just there a couple weeks ago. Your winner in Dirt Late Model, and he's sticking his tongue out at you, Ralph. Teddy Hoots was the winner. Walker McNulty was second. I don't have a podium picture. And somebody named 18 was third, because that's what was on the computer screen for third place. 18, 1-8.
I don't know.
Dirt Late, or no, this would have been scale NASCAR, the 4.5-inch.
That has big money with a win.
Big, huge money. Carl was your winner. Walker on the right was second, and Guy Spalding on the left was third. And then GTP, the money kept flowing, because big money Carl was your winner in GTP, with Pete Reams on the left second, and Guy Spalding on the right in third. And in the stock car class, Nick Brantley was the winner. Mike Parker on the left was second, and Guy Spalding was third once again. So big money Carl gets 2, Guy Spalding gets 3 thirds, and Walker gets a couple of seconds. So it's kind of mixed up down there. The Southern California Retro Racing Association was at Buena Park Raceway once again. That's kind of their home turf. In the F1 class, they ran on the flat track.
I'll talk about a one-body class there.
You think? You want to go back and look at that? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they don't allow the T-tray stuff, so a lot of Matras in there. So Mill Conroy was your winner. followed by Brian Warmack and Gary Donahue. And as you can see, Mill and Brian was on the same lap, and Gary was right there behind him.
Close times all the way through the field, and close laps all the way too. Really.
Yep. Apparently Bill Vanderzeel must have had some problems right off the bat. He didn't run very long, and wasn't that fast. So anyway, and then in there's your F1 podium. Mill in the center, Brian on the left, Gary on the right. I don't have a photo for the Can-Am, but Brian Warmack was your winner. Jim Lane was second, and Dale Yamashita was third. Brian kind of blew him out by 4 laps, but no big deal. But the next 3 or 4 were kind of close. So, and Midwest Slot Car Series and the Great Lake Retro Series combined for their races at Pro Slot Raceway in Hartford, Michigan. And in Can-Am, I was the winner with Steve Pepler not pictured second, and Terry Watson was third. In the F1 class, that's a whole interesting story. We'll get that in a minute. So in the F1 class, Richard T, he was the winner. These were the top 3 guys in the B main. They wound up to be the top 3 overall after the A main was over. Richard T in the center was your winner. Bob Foster on the left with his eyes closed was second, and Bob Manzetti, the Sawdust Man, was third. And we also had Bob Dempsey there. I mean, how many more Bobs can you get in a building in one day? And then an LMP, FNRS LMP, Joe Ligori in the center was, I don't know if he's showing us a booger or what on his finger, but he was your winner. Terry Watson was second, and Bob Manzetti was third. And that's our winner chicken dinner reports. And you're going to wake up and do your thing here or what?
Sunday. All right.
Okay, this weekend, of course, you got the big race, the big R4 race down at Tom Thumb Hobbies in Columbus, Ohio. Coops on Friday, Can-Am on Saturday, Formula One on Sunday. All the racing will be on the American Blue King there. And you got the Rocky Mountain Retro Racing Association racing this weekend, North versus South at Concord. The final B&E crosstown races at Chicagoland. Yuska's at Pro Slot. The American Womp Racing Association is at Uncle Charlie's in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. And Penn, Jersey is Sunday. So that's, and then following weekend, AWRA, the Gator Retro Racing Regions racing, Retro East is racing, Penn, Ohio's racing, and the JPM Series, Hard Body Series in South Bend's racing. So, but wait, there's more. So I seen this picture the other day in my feed on Facebook, and what caught my eye was the American Raceway seats was the first thing that caught my eye. And I'm looking at the track and I'm thinking, man, that's an American hill climb. So they said that this was a track somewhere in West Virginia. And so it turns out, oh, never mind. We got to go back. I thought I had another picture here. But anyway, it's called Grand Prix Raceway. It's in Ridgely, West Virginia. They have a 135-foot American hill climb. And they race hard bodies there. There's no steering wheels on the tracks, but they have the seats and the pedestals.
So it's just hard body racing right now.
Just hard body racing there. But, you know, we always talk about American Raceway tracks. And
yeah, it's cool to see one. I wonder where it came from.
Yeah, they've been open a couple of years, it sounds like. And just another one of those raceways that's out there we never hear about.
Yeah, I mean, how are these places out there and nobody knows about them? You know,
right. And then, you know what? And also, when we came back from Durham, like I said, I passed through Beckley where they were having an AWRA race. And Charles Eldridge told me that there was another raceway not far from where they had the AWRA race that he went to, and they had an American Orange track there. So I did some digging, and sure enough, there was a raceway not too far. Another raceway in West Virginia has an American Orange, but they replaced the S section with a straightaway. So everything's all there except for the S's. So,
What's the name of that place?
you know what? I'll have to get that information for next week, and I'll put some pictures up. So,
Okay.
I don't remember the name of it, but
And we got another new track, right? At
well,
least one more.
that's where we're going. We're going to the big grand openings.
Mhm.
Logan Avenue Slot Car Raceway in Belvedere, Illinois opened this last week. And I don't know if they had a grand opening or not, but I kind of used that. So,
And what kind of track do they have?
well, right there you go.
Oh, nice. A little hill climb.
Now what's interesting is
An oval.
I think this hill climb track came from West Virginia and was for sale, and that's where the American Orange track is I was just telling you about.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, but I got to do some more digging on that. But I think that's where this hill climb comes because it looks real similar. No, this didn't. No, now that I'm looking at this a little more, this is not the track.
Now I don't know if the winds is really like fishside or if that's really how it's banked. That's crazy if it is.
Oh, I think it's kind of banked that way because I've seen another picture of the track, and yeah, it's got a
wow.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah, and see, this is. I think this is more of a hill climb, not a grandstand, because the top straightaway is over half of the bottom straightaway. So, but look at that donut. I mean, that donut's like really, whoo! It's like a soup bowl.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I hate to have to marshal that top turn because you're definitely going to have a.
Yeah, it's like you need to be on a ladder.
So, and they got a flat trioval. It looks fairly flat. That trioval looks familiar, but I can't remember where I've maybe seen it before. So, and then last night it was on Facebook. They showed a picture of a track, and it turns out it's at this place in Martinez, Georgia, which is close to Augusta, and it's at a place called the Playhouse. And my super sleuth research for about 5 minutes. The Playhouse is like they got paintball, they got indoor bounce houses, and they got the balls that the little kids jump in, and they have arcade games, and they have a slot car track. And I think pre-show, you said you've seen this picture? Yeah. Okay.
That's the one I have seen, but I haven't seen everything of the track.
And I'm kind of thinking that on this end down here, just because, I told you I think maybe this is a bank turn down here, but I mean, we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to tell.
This kind of looks like it's running downhill, like it'd be running downhill out of a bank.
But I don't know why nothing else would be banked. Why would it just be one bank corner? I don't know.
I don't know.
Could be though. I mean, it still looks interesting, even if
right. And I'm definitely, this is a one-off track. I've never seen this track before anywhere. Here's a raceway somewhere, and this is the track. I've never seen this layout before. So, again, another track we never hear about. So, there you go.
Well, good news, though. More tracks opening up. That's always great news. We seem to have at least 3 or 4 of them now.
And you know what? I don't know that that place will be like our usual commercial.
Right. Yeah. The Playhouse place. Yeah. I'm still not going to be, but nonetheless, it's still good to see tracks up and running.
Right.
Any capacity.
Yeah, I mean, more tracks is good. So, and you know what? And I didn't put it up yet because I'm waiting for them to open. So when they have pictures of the tracks up, but we all seen pictures of the track that's going in down in South Africa.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
So when they get some pictures up of the track, that's a 6-lane track. It looks like it was probably CNC routed, and then put it together. So yeah, once that facility is going to be super nice and clean, and so when they get that done and up, we'll probably talk about that on the show too. But so another thing that we were going to talk about pre-show, but we got going, and because right before we went pre-show, I talked to Ernie Mazzetti on the phone, and Ernie for the last 6 or 8 months has talked about doing this Flexi Palooza race up in the Detroit, Michigan area, like in June. And he told me today he'll have a Facebook page up probably about the time the show airs tonight. But basically what he's doing is Ernie's doing this race. It's not like a Mazzetti racing thing. This is something Ernie's doing. Just he wants to put on this race. And
Sure.
so it's going to be basically FNRS chassis rules, and then it's going to be handout motors, handout tires. It's going to be spec bodies and LMP and GTP. And you'll have to pre-register, and more details are coming. I mean, this is kind of a thing in progress, but he's really starting to wanting to promote this thing. So he's like, oh, here's what's going on. I said, well, can I pass along to the show? He's like, sure. So basically the race is going to be June 1st, 1st and 2nd at Downriver Speedway on the Girding King there.
So what are the handout tires, motors, and bodies? And what kind of track is it going to be?
That's going to be announced here pretty soon. He obviously it's going to be a Wonder Rubber tire because that's what you're going to have a run on that track.
What track is it on?
It's on the King track, the Girding King track that was at Skid Marks.
Oh, okay, Downriver now.
Downriver, yeah.
Okay.
And he said the pinions will have motors, or pinions will have motors. Yeah, pinions will have motors on them, but the motors will have pinions on them. It'll be 11 tooth, 64 pitch. Basically 2 races. He said there'll be 3-minute heats. So Mike Fleming, if you're listening, it's going to be a 3-minute Flexi race here coming up. And on Sunday, there will be what he's calling a Dash for Cash race. Mm. And it will be, he's going to build 8 cars, put them on the track. And the top 8 combined finishers from Saturday are eligible to run in that event. Hmm. So I guess.
So as like, does the car stay on the lane, or everyone gets their own car to race the whole race?
We didn't go in detail on that. He just said that he was going to build 8 cars and put them on the track. So I don't know if they're going to stay on the lanes or if this is your car, this is your car. I don't know. We didn't, but more details are coming. So June 1st and 2nd, the Flexi Palooza. So it sounds fun.
Well, good luck to everyone who goes, or interesting to read about it.
Yep.
Find out the details.
Yep. I plan on going. I mean, it's not that far and sounds fun and different and interesting. So
right.
It should be a good time. So that's all I got in my notes and stuff. But, well, okay, so, we had our Great Lakes and Midwest Series race this last week at Pro Slot last weekend. And, okay, so I want to ask a question, kind of off subject, but the paperclip that you raced on, do you remember how many feet it was?
I think it was 120.
Okay, because that's what other people said. That's what other people said, and I said, I don't know, because they talked about Bear's old paperclip, which was 135 foot, which it's been shortened since. But anyway, back on subject. So we had a situation in the F1 class, and, Joe Ligori teched the F1 cars, and Steve Pepler got disqualified at the end of the race. But anyway, before I get to that, Steve brought his car up twice, and it got bounced twice for small tires or whatever. And Joe overlooked the fact of teching the body height on the cars. So nothing was said. I mean, Joe teched them.
And this is F1, you said?
F1. They got the, 1 3/8 body height at the rear.
Okay.
So anyway, we tech the cars, or he techs the cars. We qualify. We had 7, so we're going to run 3 in the B and 4 in the A. So we have marshals, and they run the B main, and of course Richard T won, and Bob Foster was second, and Bob Manzetti was third. So we start the A main, and I didn't run probably 15 laps and got tangled up with Joe, and it broke my crown gear in half. I mean, it's like if you took the round gear and broke it in half. And I've never seen a crown gear do that before.
Wow.
Okay. So anyway, that took me out of the race, basically. And so Joe had all kinds of problems, and Johnny Detroit was in the main with us, and he wasn't as fast as us three. But so anyway, so Steve Pepper ends up winning the race, and overall by like 20 laps or something. So I'm up there taking photos of the cars, the top three, I get all the pictures taken, and somebody says, man, it looks like the body's awful tall on that white car. And I looked at Joe, and I said, did you check the bodies at Tech? And he's like, no. And I said, well, let me go get a measuring stick. Well, sure enough, it was like 60 thousandths too tall. I mean, it wasn't like it was close. I mean, it was obvious. I mean, someone looked at the car and said, I think that body's high. So, after a couple of seconds or whatever, it's like, well, we got to disqualify him because his body's too tall. And, of course, Steve, rightfully, how can you disqualify me after the race if you didn't tech me before the race? And it's like, well, it's the racer's job to bring his car to tech legal to begin with. Or he should. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, racers.
But my question would be, is in the rule book, does it say that the cars have to pass tech after the race?
It doesn't say that.
Then I would be upset also.
But it says the body height, the max, is 1 3/8 inch. And it doesn't say before the race, during the race, or after the race.
Right.
Okay, so, and it goes back to, and I'm not saying this was done, but you could actually have two sets of pinholes in your bodies and raise your bodies in between heats after tech.
Or you could have two identical bodies and whatever.
That's true too. I mean,
but also maybe like your pan mounts could get banned, or a lot of situations.
Right. So we didn't mark the bodies, because we normally don't do that because we don't have problems. So anyway, he got disqualified, and so then Rich and those guys, the 3B main guys, because me and Joe was way down because we had all these troubles, and then
yes, I was wondering how they ended up top three in both. Results.
So because it would have been Steve, Rich, and Bob Foster, but he got DQ'd, then it bumped up. So and like I said, there was not some argument, there was discussion, and it was.
I'm not gonna lie, I've been kicked out of tech plenty of times for the back of my F1 being too high. Mainly, it's always like one side a little higher than the other or something.
Right, but this was straight up high.
Right, yeah.
But the interesting point was, so then Steve's like, well, I ran that body at Fort Wayne last month, and it was fine. And I said, yeah, you're right, it was fine, because I teched the cars and I measured the bodies, because Joe came up with a body that was probably, I'm not going to say a quarter of an inch too tall, but it was huge.
All right.
I'm like, Joe, you got to fix this. You're too high. Oh. So then I checked all the other cars, because if you're going to tech one, you got to tech them all.
Right.
Like after the race, when we teched Steve's car, I teched the rest of them to make sure they were all legal. Everybody else was legal. Just Steve was the only one high. So the race before, Steve's body was fine, but he tried to say, well, I ran that race and you guys passed it and it should have been legal at this race. But no, it's not, because we're after the race. If anything, after the race, your body should be lower because your tires wore down. But so that's my interesting story. So.
That brings up a good question. I mean, like, what should have to pass tech after the race is over?
Well, see, here's another thing, and like you said, it doesn't say, okay.
I mean, like in the FNRS, I mean, we make sure that you haven't changed chassis or bodies.
Because we mark it.
Or tires. Because we mark them all.
Pinion.
We count the pinions of the top three, yeah.
Right.
But, I mean, like, in some places, your tires have to clear after the race, or your car has to weigh still above the minimum after the race, or whatnot. Right. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. To me, if your race car passes pre-race tech, it should be legal when the race is over.
Okay, so I'll just change things. I'll make another example. So let's say in an FNRS race, you have to run retro Hawk motors. and we're allowed to run Retro Hawk short shaft motors.
Mm-hmm.
So, we kind of do a quick tech, and most times we do a pretty expedient and I won't say 100% perfect tech, but I mean, so let's just say we're teching cars, and you or I don't look close at a motor, and at the end of the race, this guy still has the same motor in the car because we marked it, but it turns out it's a Hawk 7 short shaft versus an R7 short shaft, and he wins the race, and it went through tech.
Yeah.
You gonna let him stay with the win?
Okay, that's not really what I meant.
Are you gonna let him stay with the win?
Let me clarify. Heights and weights and clearances shouldn't have to be checked after the race. Something major, like the wrong motor. I mean, yeah, okay.
But it's no different. The rules are the rules. The rules say the bodies have to be a minimum or a maximum of 1 3/8, and it's found to be taller after the race. I mean, let's say you tech it before the race and it's legal, and after the race it's illegal, but it's not been crash damaged.
But that's what I'm saying. But what if it has been crash damaged, though? What if that would have been why his body was higher? Would he still?
But that wasn't the case because I made sure his pans weren't bent up or any of that stuff.
I'm just saying, what if?
I gave him the benefit of the doubt.
Like, what if it would have been crash damage?
Then I would have said, well, it's damaged, and that's why it's high. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I would have given him the benefit of the doubt. Believe me, I didn't like throwing him out, but
I mean, it's like, I guess it was it this year's Santa or something where Ross was like DQ'd because he was like 99.
Yeah, 0.8 or what? Well,
8 or 9.
109.9 or whatever.
109.9 after the race. I mean,
but that's the way it always.
I don't know.
Right, so that's always was in USRA box stock. I mean, you had minimum weight of 72 grams, and they would tech you at mid-race tech, and they would tech you after the race was over. And it never said that in the rule book, but the car has to be a minimum weight of 72 grams, like at all times. So
ideally, in a perfect world, if tech was done 100% complete and there were no mistakes made, then there should be no reason why your car would not be legal after the race.
Well, unless it was severely damaged some way. I mean, it's like the weight
Even
deal.
if it gets damaged, there's no way that should not be thrown. You shouldn't throw that guy out.
But like it's like the weight deal. Okay, your car has to weigh 110 grams. Now, we all know that I'm sure Ross had little dots of lead in his car. So I don't know if one dot falls off can make all the difference. So, but he's underweight. Not that it's a huge amount, but it's still not meeting the rules. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, back when I raced box stock, I always had a scale sitting there in the pits, and then when I was working on the car, I'd always weigh the car to make sure.
Right.
I never really ran that close to the edge either. But sometimes you change one brand of tires to another tire, and you don't realize there's a weight difference.
Sure, or tires wear out, or
right,
things like that. Yeah.
So there's a lot of things. There's more stuff you have to think about. But like I told him, I said going forward, because then part of the thing was, well, why don't you check them for clearance at the end of the race? And I said, okay, you have to have, minimum at the start of the race is this. We're not allowed to change tires, and we know our tires wear down. So therefore, there's no clearance check at the end of a race because, and it's like okay, so your car has clearance. You start the race. Halfway through the race, your car's dragging the track because your tires are worn down or maybe you've got something bent. You can still get penalized, maybe not disqualified, but you got to go fix your car under the green to put clearance back in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff's not written in the rules per se. So, yeah, just things to think about. Rules makers and racers. I mean,
yeah. I don't know. I just think if tech is done 100% to the T, then all cars should be legal at the end.
Well, I kind of summed it up like you can look at this two ways. If he had brought his car to tech legal to begin with, he wouldn't have got disqualified. And if Joe had teched the cars and caught it, or measured the cars and caught it, then Steve wouldn't have got disqualified. So
I'm blaming Joe Dirt.
It's a two-way street.
It's all Joe Dirt's fault.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Two-way street.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a tricky one.
But don't you always try and make your car legal before you take it to tech?
Well, yeah. I mean,
okay.
I think most people do.
Right, but you'll try and play it on the edge too. Is like getting my tires right down to 8, 12 and a half or whatever. If there's a minimum and right on the. And sometimes you get bounced for it's a difference of opinion sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, my tech tool, it clears. Well, this is the official tech tool, and it don't.
Well, the too high in the back on the body on the F1, I always got popped for that. Always. It's not that I was trying to. It's just the
lack of measuring.
The fucking bodies are so hard to cut sometimes, or there's just not a lot there on the side.
Well, he had a body that had a perfect cut line on it, and still it was high. I mean, if he cut it on the cut line, it would have mounted perfect.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've bought Parma bodies that have cut lines, and I've cut them on the cut line. And they're like, "Oh no, this is illegal." I'm like,
"Did you run big tires or little tires?"
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't run abnormally big tires or anything.
No, what I'm saying is, like F1 cars, supposedly with the Parma body, if you cut the body on a cut line and you run 812 tires, you have to mount it below the cut line. You run 790 tires and you cut on the cut line and mount it, it's perfect.
Right.
That's what I've been told.
Yeah. So, no, I think I was running probably 800s or something.
Okay.
795, 800, something like that. I don't know.
But your body was more than 10 thousandths tall, too.
I don't remember.
Okay.
I just remember I had to remount it. That's all.
Okay. So.
But I'm glad we don't have to fuck with that in the FNRS. That's one of the things that's so nice about Flexi racing now is
Let's see. Okay, and then that was
so easy to go racing, really.
Right, but that was another question for you.
That's not a knock on any retro organization in particular.
Right.
I'm just saying, in general, one of the things I've enjoyed about coming back to Flexi racing was just how easy it was to go race.
Okay, so here's the deal. We don't tech the pinions at tech.
Right.
So let's say the next race we go to, we pop a tire off and someone's got a 12-tooth pinion on. Do we let his finish stand or are we bouncing?
Well, I mean, no. It shouldn't be legal.
Okay. Well, it's the same if your body's high after the race then.
Well, not really, because I'm saying if he passed the body height at the beginning of the race,
well,
then
okay.
If something happens to the car in the race, then that should be okay, is what I'm saying.
Well, it's obvious his car.
I mean, somebody's not going to get in a crash and magically grow a tooth on the pinion.
No. What I'm saying is he brought his car to tech. Joe didn't measure it. Okay? Mm-hmm. He forgot to measure it. Mm-hmm. At the end of the race, it was too tall. Okay? Mm-hmm. I'm going to say it was too tall. It would have been too tall if Joe had measured it at tech. Okay? So yeah, Joe didn't tech it per se, made a mistake, overlooked measuring the cars. In the race, it became an issue. What I'm saying is in FNRS, we don't check the pinions at tech. Basically, we're no different than him forgetting to measure a body. Car goes through tech. At the end of the race, it's got an 11-tooth pin or 12-tooth pinion on it. He's out because it doesn't meet the rule.
Sure, yeah, because we checked the top three.
Right.
Right.
So the secret is go and race and finish fourth or worse with your illegal pinion.
Yeah.
Because in the Midwest Stock Car Series a couple years ago, Joe would have you take your tire off, or he would take your tire off at tech and check and then put it on. Well, a lot of guys didn't want him doing that, and then when you asked them to do it, it was like, why do we have to do this? So Joe's like, you know what? We'll take you at the end of the race. And one time there was a guy who not only had the wrong pitch gears on, but he had a 12-tooth pinion on it, and it was supposed to be 11. So he was out.
Yeah.
But if we had teched that for him he would have got caught and had to go change it before the race started. But in his case, he didn't know the rules had changed or something, and so. But it cost him a win, and he didn't win because of the different pitch and gears. Just like Steve didn't win the race because his body was 60 thousandths too high. You know what I'm saying?
But you know what? Like every time that you've had to check my opinion at an FNRS race, yeah. I always think, oh my God,
what if I put the right opinion on?
The wrong one on? Yeah, like I would be so embarrassed because they're gonna be like, oh, you're a cheater, But
right.
But it can happen pretty easily, really.
Yep.
By accident, and
right.
But I always think, oh man, I wouldn't fuck up.
Depends how you store your opinions, whether they can kind of crawl into one side of the thing or another.
Oh, dude, my opinions are all mixed together. They're all in one thing.
There you go.
So, but I always try to double check it. But even if you double check, you can miscount. It has to happen. You know what I mean? Easily.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So it's good to keep them honest at the end of the race.
The best one's when you're getting your pinion box and you get an 11-tooth pinion out, you solder on your motor, and you put it in, and it has no gear mesh, and it's like, oh, that's an 11-tooth 72 pitch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's happened plenty of times. I've seen that happen a bunch.
Yeah. So other than that, that's all I.
Okay, well, I got some questions for you. So I saw on Facebook the other day that you posted an ad from, I believe it was 1975 from Out of Sight.
Actually, that was, yes, that was a magazine ad from 1975. And I think that might have been, the original post, I think that was maybe in an Australian magazine.
Okay.
And I wasn't sure what year that was from. And that was the first time I had ever seen it. And believe me, there's like tons of out of sight stuff that I've probably never seen, because I didn't.
Yeah. So that was going to be my question was, I think a lot, I know for the longest time I had no idea that Out of Sight had even been around that long. So, like, how long has Out of Sight been around, and what's kind of like the backstory before you got it, and when did you get it?
Okay, so Out of Sight has been around since 1974. Okay, so.
And who was the original creator?
The original owner was Frank Pretzman.
Okay.
And Chris.
Where is he from?
He's from Southern California.
Okay.
I'm going to say Orange County. Because they were in Buena Park, or in that area back then.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank Pretzman started Out of Sight. And Frank Pretzman also owned Monaco Miniatures Raceway. And they had an American Red track.
Okay.
Right? And I'll get scalded if I got that right. I'm pretty sure they had a red track. And they had, I believe they had the 1977 USRA Nationals.
Mm-hmm.
On that track. And the question is, though, and I'll get to that in a minute. So why was Out of Sight started, or how did Out of Sight come around? Well, Chris Burlew was a pro racer in Southern California in the early 70s. And, God, and the more I think about this, the more that ties more things into this that I really don't want to get into right at the moment. So I'm not going to go with everything. So anyway, Chris Burlew raced pro, and Chris Burlew also worked at Mack, which Mack was a body company. Out of Sight's not in existence yet. Chris Burlew works at Mack, which was Lloyd Asbury, Barry Crow, and Asbury Crow. I forget who the M guy was, but Mac was the first letter of three guys' last names. So M-A-C, Mac. So Mac came after, like, the Associated Kirby deal. Like, there was Lancer, and then you had Kirby and Associated, and then Mac.
Mac,
and
yeah.
Felipe was involved with Mac. Okay. So a lot of the early bodies were quote unquote designed by Felipe, or he had some say into them. So Mac was around, I don't know, 2 to 3 years. And Lloyd Asbury told me that it got to a point where there wasn't enough body business to support 3 partners. Like 3 guys couldn't make a living doing this. And they were into RC bodies. There were some Mac RC bodies and stuff. So the decision was made to sell Mac. And, the word goes out, Mac is for sale. So Frank Pretzman wanted to buy it, and Kent McDowell of Parma wanted to buy it. And, I'd heard some rumors, there's that side of the story and there's this side of the story. And, Ken always told me, we found out it was for sale. I took the last $5,000 in my bank account and I went to California and I bought the company.
Okay.
The other side said that somehow Ken stole it from them or whatever. Okay. So I'm like, okay, I've heard 2 sides. So one day I asked Lloyd, I said, Lloyd, how did Parma get it and not Pretzman? But Lloyd says, I told both of them $5,000. First guy to bring me $5,000 gets it. Ken was at my doorstep first. So Parma wound up with Mac.
Okay.
Well, then Pretzman, I'm going to start my own body company, so he started Out of Sight. And Burlew, who lived there and stuff, and raced at the Raceway,
So what was the first body that Out of Sight had? Do you know?
I think it was the 01. Well, we'd have to look at that catalog, which I can't really bring up right now. But I believe it was the 01A or the 01.
What kind of body was that?
Well, it was a wedge pro type body.
Okay.
And then there was also the race series bodies, which were a little bit more swoopy than the original ones were.
Okay, so he owned it from 74 till when?
Till 1980.
Okay.
So, but in that time, see, here's what I was going to come back to.
Okay.
I believe that I know Frank Pretzman owned both Monaco Miniature Raceway and Out of Sight.
Okay.
And I think at a certain time, Frank sold the Raceway to Frank Correa.
Okay.
But I don't know if Frank Correa owned the Raceway when they had the USRA Nats or not. I don't know if Frank was after 77 or right before 77.
Okay.
Okay, but then Frank Correa bought Out of Sight from Frank Pretzman in 1980. And Frank Correa had Out of Sight until I bought it in 1998.
98 was when you bought it. Okay, I got you.
So, and because Russ Martin said you guys need to do a segment on the history of Out of Sight, and
yeah,
this is just kind of a primer. I mean, we can do a better version of this because I can.
Sure, you have a lot of photographic and stuff.
Yeah, right. Because I'm not exactly sure.
So how many different bodies do you have now?
I've got over a couple hundred molds.
Wow.
Bodies. So I can't give you an exact number because
it's a lot, though.
A lot of stuff back there, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I bought Out of Sight in 98, I'm thinking there was 100 molds. But there was actually more than that because I was handed a couple of boxes of stuff that was stuff that had been damaged or whatever. And every now and then I'll get in there and kind of look at what's in there. And I mean, some stuff I kind of brought back. And a lot of stuff I don't know if I've ever made in like an Out of Sight catalog either.
Right.
So, there's some oddities here and there. So Out of Sight's been around since 74. And then, Champion was making bodies back then too. And then Parma took over Mac. Some of the questions marks, whatever happened to like all the old Kirby molds, which Associated supposedly acquired, but then who acquired all the Associated molds? And And then, you know, in the early 80s, you know, guys like Cayman and Coford started making their own bodies and Alpha, and you know, all the pro companies decided to make their own bodies. You know, so you run an Alpha chassis, Alpha tires, Alpha body, Alpha motor. Same thing with Coford, same thing with Cayman. So Out of Sight was kind of like the independent company because, you know, they didn't do motors and they didn't have a full deal. So,
right.
But I mean, in like you know, like from 74 up until, you know, early 80s, I mean, almost all your top pros and teams all ran Out of Sight bodies. I mean, it was kind of the only up-to-date kind of wing car bodies going at the time. And nowadays,
so did you have fast ones first?
Yeah, I had fast ones. Yeah, I had fast ones first.
Okay.
And then we acquired Out of Sight.
So then you kind of just were like, I mean, you were naturally probably wanting to grow or whatever, and thought,
okay. You know, okay, so
acquire Out of Sight.
Because I remember one day Frank called me, and me and Frank, I mean, I had known Frank for a long time, not like personally, but I'd had a lot of contact with him. Okay, like prior to me working at Parma in 1990, I ran the Tri-State USRA. So I would send race results and letters asking for prizes at the end of the year to Frank Correa to send prizes to our races, which he would, you know, at the end of the race, and it's at the end of the series. And so then I went to work for Parma, and then I didn't run the Tri-State USRA anymore. So, and then I left Parma, and I actually think I met Frank when I still worked at Parma at a Nats. And, yeah, it would have been the 93 Nats, I think, was the first time I met Frank. And, you know, we got along. We were cordial and everything. And so when I left Parma, I was the USRA national director. And in 1994, there had been a rule proposed and passed. I think it might have been actually, well, no, it was 94. It was the year before. We had someone had proposed a rule that bodies had to be approved and available before they could be used at the Nats, except for Group 7. Okay, so like Group 7, you could make your own body and yeah, you know,
whatever.
But in the lower classes, it had to be submitted, approved, and available. So at the 95 Nats, about 2 months before the 95 Nats in Lugnut, Frank releases the Out of Sight Viper and the Out of Sight Cobra.
In which the Viper is still raced today.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So all these guys from California show up, and they have Viper or Cobra bodies on their cars. And they all pretty much switched to Vipers because the Vipers were faster, because the Cobra had more sweep in the back than a Viper did. So, you know, I'm seeing this, and pretty soon someone comes over and says, hey, are these bodies legal? And I'm like, no, they were never submitted. I mean.
Right.
And it's like, well, Frank is going to shit a brick when he gets here tomorrow. Because I went and made an announcement, like, these two bodies cannot be used because they weren't submitted, and we don't know if they're available or not.
And so, they didn't just hop on their cell phone or email them back then. Right.
Okay, so the next day Frank shows up, and everyone's over there telling him the deal. I knew my minutes was numbered because here he come. And he backed me in a corner, and he threatened he was going to sue me and all this other stuff. And I said, Frank, if you were a USRA member, if you'd have paid your membership fee and had a rule book, you'd have known these rules changed. And he was pissed. I mean, he was royally pissed. And I'm going to sue you and the USRA. And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you know, let me know when. So then the next day, I think he finally realized that, yeah, his lack of not being a member and having a current rule book, and, you know, things had changed. He wasn't at the previous Nats. You know what I'm saying? So, he was cool the next day. And, a couple of years after that, he called me up out of the blue and says, "Hey, would you be interested in buying out of sight?" I said, "I don't know. What do you want for it? And what you got?" And so, yeah, I kind of went to California, bought it sight unseen. And, the rest is history.
But you kind of had some experience with bodies probably at Parma, though, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, prior to working at Parma, in the wing car thing, we always ran out-of-sight bodies to begin with. That was the hot wing car body. And then went to Parma, and they actually had some good bodies, but because they were Parma and not out-of-sight, guys, Parma had some competitive stuff. And then during my time there, we even made some more competitive stuff were as good or maybe a little bit better than the out-of-sight stuff. And, I won lots of races with Parma bodies when I was there. So,
right.
Then when I left Parma, I raced Parma bodies now and then somehow kind of wind up going back to out-of-sight bodies. Well, I think because when I was at RJR, we bought bodies OEM from out-of-sight to put on the Radar Run cars.
Okay.
So it was kind of like, I need a couple of Vets or a couple of Tigas, and because I remember going to a Parma Challenge Cup race in New Haven, Indiana, and so we went there on Friday and we practiced. We were running box stock, and it was an Ogilvy orange track, and I had a Parma 966 body, which was kind of one of the last pro bodies I was involved with at Parma before I left, and it was a good body, and I was out there practicing it, and it was me and Randy and Rob Garland, and we were fast, and so we went back to the hotel, and I told Randy, I said, I guarantee if I put a out-of-sight Corvette body on my car, I said, I guarantee I would pick up a tenth or more. You're full of shit. There's no way. So I sat down and mounted one up, and went back the next morning, was 2/10 faster. Because I remember telling Randy, you might want to mount. No, ain't going to make a bit of difference. When we got there, it was too late for him to sit down and mount a body. So,
right.
Adios, guys. So,
wow.
And he's like, yeah, I should have mounted a body when you did. So,
yeah.
So, and then, I don't know. From the time I left Parma before I bought out-of-sight, there was out-of-sight wasn't really into the scale body market thing. Parma was kind of it. So depending on what you race, you might run, most of the scale classes I was running Parma bodies, and then what little bit of wing car racing I was doing, we were running out-of-sight bodies. And then Ciccarello came into Parma, and he even made some pretty good bodies for the wing cars. So, but now it's at a point where you don't sell that many wing car bodies a year like we used to. So, you can look at the total entries at races anymore these days and kind of see that's not where it's at compared to some other stuff out there.
Right.
But we'll be in trouble when hard bodies take over because nobody will want Lexan bodies anymore.
Yeah, that's true. I'll have to try to talk them into stat read.
Yeah.
So
that's all.
All right. Well, that's about all I got this week. No giveaways this week.
No giveaways.
Do we have a secret word of the show?
Well, before I go, and pre-show, I told Ralph this, and pre-show before I even had Ralph on the show. Today's like the 3rd anniversary of Jay Kisling's passing, so I kind of had a little moment before you and I got together to start the show, but not a boo-hoo-hoo moment, but it was a sentimental moment just thinking back about Jay and
all the good times and
bad times.
Yeah.
So. But
I just can't believe it's been 3 years.
Well, I know, and like I told you, pre-show, like it didn't even dawn on me that anything. It's like today's the day, or it's been 3 years. But
right.
One of Jay's other friends posted up, Jay Kisling, rest in peace, miss you. And it's like, wow, was today the day? I was like, is this the
right?
And I went and looked it up real quick, and it was like, wow. And like I told you, it doesn't seem like it was 3 years ago. It doesn't seem like it was as long as 3 years ago, but then sometimes it seems like it was longer than 3 years ago. So,
Right.
Just kind of a surreal moment, I guess. So there you have it.
So the secret word of the show, should we have it in memory of Jay?
Yeah, let's do let's do Jay Kisling.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that was pretty good, Ralph.
That's fitting.
Sometimes you come up with a better secret word than I do.
I might have picked cinnamon lotion, but Jay Kisling works good. So.
Oh, Cinnamon. What's that stripper's name? Cinnamon J?
Yeah. All right.
A story we can't tell.
Yeah, that one we better not.
Someday we might have to do a like behind the scenes XXX rated version.
Make them pay like 99 cents for it and
between the lanes.
Out.
Between the lanes and off the track.
Yeah.
It's a special edition. So, all right.
All right. Well, that's all I got. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Next week, everybody at the R4, good luck. Have a good time.
Yep.
And all the other races, safe travels. And we will see you guys next Wednesday.
All right. See you guys.